Hello and welcome to the second installment of Conversations with the Tufenkian Foundation, where we have frank, open, and insightful discussions with Tufenkian supporters, staff, beneficiaries, and friends. I'm Rupen Jambazian, and I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with longtime Tufenkian Foundation friend, supporter, and advisory trustee, Dr. Carolann Najarian. Dr. Carolann Najarian, originally from New York, spent the major part of her medical career in private practice in Massachusetts. In 1988, after the major earthquake in Armenia, she spearheaded a medical relief effort through her NGO, Armenian Health Alliance Incorporated. Over the course of more than 50 trips to the region, she delivered millions of dollars worth of medicine and supplies to the destroyed region, established primary care center at Gyumri, providing care to needy residents and training to physicians, and the Arpan Center for Expectant Women in Artsakh, providing food and vitamins to pregnant women. Dr. Najarian has received a number of awards and honors, including the Ellis Island Medal of Honor in 1999, Boston University School of Medicine Alumni Association's Humanitarian Award in 2004, and the Vachagan Varebasht Medal of the Artsakh President in 2019. Dr. Najarian is also a published author. She wrote A Call from Home, Armenia and Karabagh, My Journal in 1999, based on her journals chronicling her experience and the people that she met over the first 8 years of her work after the earthquake. And years after publishing A Call from Home, she also published her father's memoirs. The memoirs, which her father, Avedis Albert Abrahamian, had recorded on tape, chronicle his odyssey of survival from Kharkiv to Rhode Island and subsequently New York. With her husband, George, Dr. Najarian supports numerous Armenian and non-Armenian endeavors and projects. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome Dr. Najarian to Conversations with the Tufenkian Foundation today. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat today, Dr. Najarian.
Thank you, my pleasure.
That's quite the CV, and first and foremost, I want to thank you for all the great work, the hard work, the dedication that you've had over the years. Let's jump right into it. Dr. Najarian, your experiences in Armenia and Artsakh, specifically between 1988 and 1997, are chronicled in your book, A Call from Home. And the period, of course, starts right after the earthquake. It includes momentous periods, including the breakup of the Soviet Union, the independence movement, and the first Artsakh War. What was it like being a field doctor in Artsakh during that war, and what prompted you to publish your experiences from those years?
Well, I'll start with the second question first. The experiences were profound and many. And I thought, if I don't write about this, it's lost. And there was, at that time, there was no one else, or very few. I won't say no one because I'm not really sure, but no one else was really writing about it. No one was putting things in the perspective of the war and the earthquake together and what the impact was. In terms of looking at it from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And so I felt I needed to do that. And I'm glad I did it. It's interesting. It still resonates today. So it seems people are still reading the book, which amazes me.
After all these years.
And I get a call saying, I just finished your book. I wanted to, so that's gratifying, but you learn something about the written word, and that is that it's there, it's done, the book is published. You cannot argue with that. It doesn't go away, right. And what it is forever there and stands the test of time, hopefully, but it serves as a resource for people and an understanding. Several young physicians who are in Armenia now working have said to me, having read the book recently, I always wondered what it was like. I had heard about it, but I had no idea. And one forgets that this is 30 years ago. And right. So these young people were maybe not even born then. So, they had no idea. It's amazing to me too, because I forget how the time has passed, and that these are 30 years, and it's a lifetime. It's a generation has passed, and a new generation has come, which I have to say I'm thrilled about, because the new generation is fantastic, and they're picking up the mantle and they're running with it, and they're smarter and brighter than we ever were. So, and the first question, what was it like? Is that what you asked? Yeah.
That's right. What was it like being on the ground at the time?
Was every day that we were there, and we were there sometimes for never less than 2 weeks at a time, 2-3 weeks. It was intense, and it carried over when we came back. Every moment, every hour was an emergency. There was no sitting back and saying, okay, we did this, now we can go and have a party. No, we might have had a little party here and there, but everything was an emergency. It was intense, intense, intense. From the minute you hit the ground in Armenia to the minute you left, it was always, the needs were huge. The needs are huge now, but the needs were even greater, I think, then, because we were working from zero. In the medical field today, there's a lot established in this period of 30 years. Things have moved ahead. You can get an X-ray. You can get an MRI. You can get a CT scan today. You can get the blood work. You can communicate with cell phones. We had none of that. And so everything was hands-on, use your medical, what's the word? Your abilities.
Yeah, know-how.
You had nothing else to rely on. You were practicing really what I call bread and butter medicine on the ground, and using your brains. You had no equipment to rely on. We had also language difficulties. We had medicines that came in. One of the first things I did when I was there, right after the earthquake, even before getting to Artsakh, was to translate what all these medicines were. People had no idea. And so they had flown in millions of dollars worth of medicine, and the physicians there had no clue as to how to use them. And today is a different story. And as much as we could, we tried to help. So it was intense. It was like, people need this. This is good stuff. But what are we going to do? And of course, the war was another whole intense thing each time. There was not so much willingness to, or how do I put it? We weren't supposed to be supporting the war in certain ways. We gathered materials for the earthquake region, but we were not supposed to be sending those to the war zone, but we did. And we had to do it carefully because we weren't supposed to be doing that.
Of course.
And not everybody at that time thought they could win at that point. And so while you are not supposed to support a losing cause.
Right.
But when you're on the ground there, and certain of our friends like Guhen Melikian, who for him, it never was a question that we would win. Well, of course we're winning. We're winning. We're going to win. Our boys are going to win. So with that drive and that push, we did what we could. And so it was get on the ground, start sorting, start looking. It was cold. You were hungry. You were in a place where, you're shivering to your bone, but you're standing there sorting supplies. This goes to Karabagh, and then you had to think, what could they use in Karabagh? Okay, can't send this because they won't be able to use it. This is better to go to a Yerevan hospital. No, this is better to go to a Gyumri place. So all had to do, and fortunately, since I had been around, I knew what the capabilities were. And that was really a very important part of what I did, was to be able to triage the medicine to the right, and the equipment also to the right places. It was overwhelming, really overwhelming and urgent. But I remember packing one day. I was in Gyumri, and they wanted me to go to Karabagh, and I had promised my husband and family that I would not go. So I said, I can't go. Well, we got this woman who looks just like you. We got her passport. We're going to put her name. You won't speak. We'll make sure, you wear a babushka. No, I'm not. I can't go. But instead, we filled a helicopter full of supplies, mostly bandages and first aid kinds of equipment. We stood there in the cold, freezing, windy, icy cold, and we filled this helicopter and sent it off. But that was the kind of thing. Every single thing, every moment was an emergency. It was critical. It was, you got to do this, And at the same time, the Soviet Union was disintegrating, and we surreptitiously flew in. George and I flew in copy machines. Now, copy machines, dime a dozen today. We don't even use them very much anymore, right? Copy machine. In those days, copy machine was, first of all, against the law. Right. Anyone to have a copy machine privately. And we got one to the Karabagh committee. Wow. And that was like their first copy machine. They were so excited to get the copy machine. So it was stuff, it was underground. It was, you felt like you were, doing all this stuff for your country, for your homeland, and yet it was against the law. You were risking, it was exciting. So in addition to all the other things, it was very exciting. So I'll tell you one story. George was up in, you can cut all this later if you want.
I think we might keep it.
George had gone to one of the big demonstrations in front of the Madarataran. And he was out there with Ocean Yeriazarians, who passed away last year. And we had just met Ocean, and come on, George, we're going to, and they're up there, and George has got his fist up, and he's, and I'm going, oh no. I said, somebody, where's George? And they said, see him over there, that's George. I said, oh no, we're never going to be allowed back in the country. The KGB is here, they're going to see us, they're going to say these people are subversive, and they're going to just throw us out, So it was, and then you lie awake worrying about that.
Sure.
Nights, and so that's what it was like. It was very exciting. It was moment to moment, and it was, incredible.
It sure sounds incredible and exciting.
Yeah. Right, it was. But you had to be a little crazy too.
Absolutely. A good kind of crazy, yeah. It's interesting, you mentioned younger doctors, a new generation of diaspora and medical professionals that are getting involved and are involved today. In a lot of ways, you were a trailblazer, you and others like you. You really paved the way, and there have been several missions and initiatives by Armenian physicians and other professionals across the diaspora who do real meaningful work here. What kind of advice would you give to those who want to get more involved and give back specifically to the healthcare system here, but maybe hesitant for a number of different reasons, especially following the latest war?
Well, I get a lot of calls, asking, I want to get involved. What should I do? And I'm very, I'm not so encouraging all the time, because I feel that, especially if somebody's a little bit older, why haven't you done anything till now? They say, I haven't done anything, but now I want to. Well, my question is, why haven't you done anything till now? So that immediately, I almost discount that person completely. Don't bother. Give your money wherever you want, but you basically are kind of useless. We don't need you to go and treat a few patients and come home. That's not what's needed now.
Right.
We need real commitment, the kind that Shant Shekhar-Jimian is doing, or Lorki Liberation. Those are two of the people who come to mind right away, really committed to capacity building, to really building the infrastructure, to teaching, so that's what I would say for a younger person who says, I want to go and help. What can I do? First of all, what are your skills? How skilled are you? What are your language abilities, and what experience have you had? What have you done up till now? And so when you can really find somebody who has that kind of commitment and wants to go and learn and see, because it's not easy, even today, there's very big cultural differences, different ways of thinking about medicine, and the attitude of, I'm going to go in and tell them what to do, doesn't fly. So you have to see somebody who's willing to just, are you willing to work hard and put your shoulder to the grind and give your expertise, what you know, and then also to learn what you can from this, from the people who are on the ground there working already. So it's difficult to find the right people, but they are there. So, and not just in mental, but public health. Now, public health is a field that's needed very much. So, go investigate, spend some time, go with one of the bigger organizations, see what's going on, and then find your place. But the idea of going for 2 weeks to do something, you can't do anything. Stay home. Or go as a tourist. That's it.
Right. That's some sound advice.
Yeah. It's hard. It's not what they want to hear.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's difficult to hear the truth, but these are, I think, important conversations to have and important advice to get, and who better to give it?
Yeah, because otherwise you're useless and you're not really doing anything. It just doesn't work.
Right. Well, medicine is not your only passion. As the daughter of genocide survivors, you are also well known as a passionate advocate and supporter for human rights. For example, I think about a decade ago, you and your husband launched the Najarian lecture series on human rights. which is an endowed program of the Armenian Heritage Foundation. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood and how your parents' experiences as genocide survivors shaped you, your perspective, your outlook?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was, I was about 7 or 8 years old when my father started to tell me his stories. And I remember crying almost nightly, and my mother getting upset. Why are you telling her these stories? She's crying, she's too young. And my father would say, no, she needs to know, she needs to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that became embedded in my head. And being Armenian, growing up in New York City, we didn't have, we stuck very closely to the family. I didn't have a lot of American friends. Mm-hmm. But as I grew older, you never forget who you are, where you're from. But I ventured out a bit, and then it just kept coming back. And I wanted to be a doctor right from the high school days, but we couldn't afford it. I had no role models, and it was a lot of years ago. And so I was a musician, so I went to music school. But it came back eventually, and my desire to become a physician really is grounded in the genocide. That's where I wanted to be able to help. I wanted to be able to go when people were in trouble. I wanted to be able to go and help. And that's what happened. So, you know, I started medical school when I was 36 years old, finished when I was 40. And that was 1980, I graduated. And 9 years later, there was the Armenian earthquake, and I was ready to go. So that's it. That's what happened to me, you know. And fortunately, I was married to somebody who supported those things all along. He supported me through medical school. We were married, and, you know, pushed me out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning after having just gotten into bed. You gotta go, gotta study, keep studying, keep working.
Right.
And then when the earthquake happened, he supported those efforts as well. So that's what happened. I was just totally Armenian, and totally was the genocide was the most important factor in pushing me to go to medical school.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a bit. You're a former Tufenkian Foundation trustee. You currently serve as an advisory trustee. Tell us how you first got involved with the foundation. What attracted you to work with the Tufenkian Foundation in the first place?
Well, I'd heard a lot about it. I really didn't know much about it. And I had met James in Armenia a couple of times and was always impressed, of course. And I never thought of myself as being part of the foundation until he called one day and said, I'd like you to join us. That was it. And it wasn't just for the money, you know, it wasn't just for the foundation support that we could give. I was very impressed, and I told him, I said, I'm impressed that you want me for my brains and not for what I can do financially. So that really got me, and he was great. And then Antranik, don't remember if I knew Antranik before that. I'm not sure, but we got to be very good friends, and we were all on the same wavelength. and really enjoyed working with them tremendously. And the people who gathered around them, were very, very likewise like-minded, hardworking, and committed. And of course, committed to Artsakh. That is what really, if it was, as much as I did work in Armenia and loved it, in the final years, my work really was centered in Artsakh, where I spent most of my time. And so the fact that they were doing, villages and, medical centers and so on in Artsakh, building community, and I should say not only just Artsakh, but in Kashatak, where I have spent many days and, been there, slept there, done the rounds there, gotten lost there. A lot of funny stories, but my heart was there. And I had dreamed that someday I would retire there and just be a country doctor working in the mountains. But obviously that didn't work. But that's what attracted me mostly about Tufenkian Foundation, was the commitment to Kashatak as well as Artsakh, and the great people. They had such a great ground crew, as I would say, really capable and fascinating people to work with, and doing so much specifically in building community and coming together. And as a group, what I enjoyed was that they really listened. James and Antranik and the others, we all listened to each other and built, took advice and worked together. It was a great working situation.
Well, we're lucky to have you at the foundation and to continue to work together. And you mentioned that your heart's in Kashatak, and you've mentioned before multiple times that Artsakh really is the heart of Armenia. Now, following this latest war in 2020, Artsakh and its people are definitely bruised. There's no doubt about it, but they're far from broken. And we're there, we see this firsthand, that their unwavering spirit really endures. You've been witness to some really turbulent, some really chaotic periods in Armenia, in Artsakh. How, in your opinion, will the nation, the Armenian nation as a whole, I guess, and particularly the people in Artsakh, overcome this latest defeat?
Oh, Ruben, this is a difficult one. I think I've asked myself that question, and I don't know that I have an answer. The most important thing is not to assimilate. They have to remain Armenian, whether they are connected with Russia or with Armenia or whoever. The most important thing is to remain Armenian and to be committed to that. And I think they can do that. I think that can happen. There was so much in Artsakh that reminded me of my family and our traditions and how we were, that even more so in some ways than in Armenia. But in Artsakh, I felt that connection to my basic roots much more. And if they can maintain that, then they will get through this somehow. It's their culture, and it's the being Armenian, being rooted in that region that will bring them through. Otherwise, I don't know. It's just, if you give up and you decide to go and be something else, then you will lose it all. But that's the only way I see it. They're very strong. very, very smart. They have their own way of looking at things, their own way of interpreting what's going on around them, and just amazing people, strong people, and very Armenian, I think, deeply, deeply Armenian in their roots. That's the way they will remain.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I guess to wrap up, if we were to look back at your many years of working with the homeland, for the homeland, what has given you the greatest satisfaction? And the flip side, what has been your greatest source of frustration?
Oh, wow. I think the greatest satisfaction, this might sound funny, or really are in the friendships that I've made over these years. The people of Artsakh, I may not see them now, but, and we've lost touch, but if we were to be together, it would be as if nothing has passed.
Right.
Because we have shared so many wonderful experiences together. Will I ever forget marching through villages that are about to be bombed or hit by missiles with Carolann Cox, and getting in a transport and getting to another village where we met with Monte, you know, and walking through the streets of the village while Monte is carrying the kids on his shoulders and they're all singing his song, you know, and we're walking en masse. I mean, you know, the people that I did that with, you know, I would never forget. And those are just bring tears to me in thinking about it. How the days that we pleaded with Monte to wear a helmet, you know, just weeks before he was shot, and he just absolutely refused. He was such a smart guy, and he just refused to do that. But we were in Ganzasar, you know, surrounded by that beautiful cathedral, basilica, and you know, talking with him, with Cox, and she was there too. We were trying to prepare him for his press conference that he was going to give. And
incredible.
Yeah, really. I mean, there's so much that went on,
right.
that and some of those people have died. Marutian, the field surgeon, the surgeon who was, you know, we were there on the day when up near the reservoir. Not Vank. The Vank is where Ganzasar is. I forget the name of the city, but it was being bombed, and they were bringing the young men in, and I was triaging. I'm not a surgeon, but I could triage who was going where, and, you know, working under those kinds of circumstances in a field hospital with a guy like Marutian and with Artsakh Bernutian, who both have died, but both total characters, just total, unbelievable, strong Armenian characters, and surgeons who might not have known all the latest techniques, but they sure knew how to do what they had to do, you know. And they were there, and they weren't afraid of anything. And they were in the field, you know, saving lives. And they were amazing. So those kinds of things, those are what give me the most. Marina Baruchian, not a relative of the other Marutian, at the maternity hospital, and the nurses. And we developed warm relationships, and those relationships were always around the lunches that we took time to have, and or the whatever, the
Artsakh hospitality.
Right. Yes. Are you gonna? I mean, there's so many things that happened over those years, that or when they knew I was coming, they knew I loved Jengalov hots. Not only did they make 2 or 3, I mean, there were stacks of Jengalov hots. Possibly eat all of this in a week, never mind a day.
Right.
But Dr. Kuka, we got to make her the Jengalov hot.
Right.
All those women, all those people, those are the things that are the most endearing to me. Of course, hopefully, I was instrumental in saving lives along the way, and that of course. Well, can I have time for a story?
Absolutely.
So last time when we were there, I was going to visit Garin Kaloyan at the Wigman Clinic. Garin is another fabulous person and one of the friendships that I treasure so much. And so it turned out, I forget now exactly, that Wigman was right next door to a pharmacy. And I got to the pharmacy. Anyway, Garin had told the young pharmacist that I was coming. And we walked in, and she came and she wrapped her arms around me. And she said, I will never forget. I was the person who got her, and others have done this too. I'm not the only one who's done it, but here she was. She had severe scoliosis, and we found the Shriners in Chicago for her. She was from Germany, and sent her with her mother, found a family, Armenian family for her to stay with. For 3 to 4 months, they operated on her. She had to go back again, come. She went to pharmacy school. She's working, got married, has 2 kids. None of that would have been possible for her had she not had that surgery. And she was just, was so delighted. We hadn't seen each other in years. And I had lost complete track of her.
Right.
No idea. So those are the kinds of things that are just hugely gratifying. The frustration, I think the frustration is that there is not more mental, I don't know how to put it, thinking that there's a medical way of thinking, a Western way of thinking, which I think is good. It's evidence-based. It's clear. It has no fantasy. It's not attached to fantasy or to alternative care kinds of things. And unfortunately, a lot of that still remains. And that holds Armenian medicine back. There are people who are able to rise above that and adopt more of a Western way of thinking. Certainly in cardiac surgery and in the surgical areas, but in primary care and plain old hypertension and diabetes and respiratory problems, there's still an awful lot of bad medicine, you know, or I won't say totally bad medicine, but questionable medicine that's being practiced that shouldn't be. And we've not been able to make an inroad in that yet. So primary care is the one that I tried, but I didn't make it.
Well, I'm sure you'll be happy to hear, and we'll be making announcements about this soon through the foundation that will be focusing on primary care as well through the foundation in our cluster of villages in Artsakh. So we have a plan that we're working on now. We'll definitely be consulting you about that. For our supporters and friends, you'll hear about it soon. Dr. Carolann Najarian, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you, having this discussion. Thank you, first and foremost, for your years of dedication, for your years of service to the Armenian nation. I think that people of Armenia, the people of Artsakh, and the Armenian nation as a whole, and the diaspora as well, owe a lot of gratitude. So thank you. Thank you also for making the time out of your busy schedule to meet today to have this discussion. I appreciate it. And thank you to all of those who tuned in. We'll see you on the next installment of Conversations with the Tufenkian Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben.